Sometimes people don't ask directly for what they want. Instead, they do something strange. They say the opposite. Fine, don't come. I don't care anymore. Maybe you should just leave. But secretly, they hope you will stay. This is called reverse psychology, trying to influence someone by pushing them in the opposite direction, and almost everyone has experienced it. Parents do it, friends do it, partners do it. Sometimes even children do it. But here's the important question. When does reverse psychology become manipulation? And when does it become toxic? To understand that, we first need to understand why people use it. Most of the time, reverse psychology comes from fear of rejection, fear of vulnerability, fear of hearing a direct no, because asking honestly feels emotionally risky. So instead of saying, I want you to stay, someone says, leave if you want. Not because they truly want distance, but because their nervous system is trying to protect them. Psychologists connect this to emotional defense mechanisms. Your brain tries to reduce vulnerability by hiding your real need, and sometimes it works. The other person notices the hidden emotion and responds emotionally. But there is a problem. Healthy relationships cannot survive on hidden communication forever because eventually people stop feeling safe. They stop knowing what is real, and emotional confusion begins. Imagine a child says, I don't want help, while secretly struggling. That is different. Because children often don't understand their emotions yet. But adults who constantly use guilt, confusion, or emotional pressure to control reactions create something. Dangerous emotional manipulation. Now let's separate healthy influence from toxic control. Healthy influence says, I understand your feelings, but I hope you reconsider. Toxic reverse psychology says, fine, I guess I never mattered anyway. Notice the difference? One communicates honestly. The other creates guilt. One respects freedom. The other pressures emotions, and this matters deeply inside close relationships because the closer someone is to you, the more emotional power they have over your nervous system. A stranger cannot manipulate you the same way someone you love can. This is why reverse psychology becomes dangerous in families, friendships, and romantic relationships, especially when it happens repeatedly. Over time, the relationship becomes emotionally exhausting. One person starts decoding hidden meanings constantly. Do they really mean that? Are they upset? What do they actually want? And slowly, communication becomes a puzzle instead of connection. Now let's talk about why some people become extremely sensitive to reverse psychology. People who grew up in emotionally unpredictable environments often become hyper-aware of hidden emotional signals, tone changes, silence, passive aggression, guilt, because their nervous system learned that emotional tension could become dangerous, so they begin overanalyzing everything. Not because they are dramatic, but because their brain became trained to search for hidden meanings. This creates something painful. They stop trusting direct words because growing up words and emotions did not always match. Someone could say, I'm fine, while clearly angry, or say, do whatever you want, while punishing you emotionally afterward, so the brain adapts, it learns. 2. Monitor hidden emotional threats. This is connected to hypervigilance, the survival state, where your nervous system constantly scans for danger, and in adult relationships, this becomes exhausting because emotional safety disappears. You stop feeling relaxed inside. Communication. Now here's something important. Not all reverse psychology is evil. Sometimes people use it playfully. A parent joking with a child. A friend teasing another friend. Small, harmless moments where trust still exists. The problem begins when reverse. Psychology replaces honest communication because eventually people stop feeling emotionally secure. Real intimacy requires clarity, not constant decoding, not emotional guessing games. And here's something else most people never realize. Manipulation does not always look aggressive. Sometimes it looks soft, quiet, even loving. That's okay. I'll just suffer alone. I guess I care more than you do. You would do it if you really loved me. These sentences do not ask for connection. They create emotional pressure. And emotional pressure slowly damages trust. Because love stops feeling voluntary and starts feeling controlled. Now let's talk about the psychology behind this behavior. The brain wants safety, and people often discover that emotional influence creates short-term control. If guilt works once, the brain remembers it. If passive aggression works, the brain repeats it. This is basic conditioning. Behaviors that produce results often become habits, even unhealthy ones, and many people do not even realize they are manipulating others because sometimes they learned it in childhood. They watched parents communicate this way, or they survived relationships where direct honesty felt unsafe. So emotional indirectness became normal, but normal does not always mean healthy. Healing begins when people learn to communicate directly. Not perfectly, but honestly, I feel hurt. I need reassurance. I'm afraid you'll leave. These sentences feel vulnerable, but vulnerability creates real connection. Manipulation creates control, and control is not intimacy. Now let's talk about how reverse psychology affects the nervous system. When communication becomes unpredictable, the brain becomes stressed. You start monitoring tone constantly, analyzing pauses, overthinking messages, trying to predict emotional reactions. This creates anxiety, even inside loving relationships, because your nervous system never fully relaxes. Real emotional safety feels different. You don't need to decode hidden meanings. Constantly, you trust words. You trust intentions. You feel safe asking questions directly. And maybe the most important part is this. Healthy relationships do not require mind reading. They require honesty, even uncomfortable honesty, because the goal of love should not be emotional control. It should be emotional safety. And sometimes the strongest thing a person can say is, "This is what I actually feel." Without games, without guilt, without hidden traps, just truth. Because real connection begins the moment people stop trying to control emotions and start learning how to express them safely.